in the town of Soft, perched among the ancient hills of Galilee, where mist hangs low in the morning, and the air carries whispers of ages past, there lived an old watchmaker named Yosef. He was known not for the precision of his clocks, but for the quiet way he lit the menorah in the window of his little shop each night during Hanukkah. Children would stop in the cold to watch the flickering candles reflect on the frosted glass, and some claimed they could hear stories in the flames. Yosef's grandson Eliyahu often sat beside him, watching the ritual with curious eyes. He was a boy of questions, bright, lively, and forever wondering why the world spun the way it did. Why do we light candles? Why 8 nights? Why this menorah, old and bent in one arm, with wax stains like scars of memory? Yosef never gave quick answers. He would smile, stroke his white beard, and say, "Come back tomorrow, and I'll tell you one more piece." And so, over time, Eliyahu gathered the story like crumbs on a trail back through time. It began. Yosef told him one night, with a flame that had survived a journey. Not the great miracle of the oil in the temple, though that too was sacred, but a smaller, quieter miracle. Yosef's own father, Reuben, had carried the menorah across Europe, through war and darkness, in a worn satchel, hidden beneath loaves of stale bread, and prayers whispered in silence. The menorah survived ghettos, camps, and forests. It was never lit in public. Just once, in the dead of a Polish winter, with one stub of a candle, had lit it in the woods, whispering the blessings with chattering teeth. The flame was barely visible, yet it warmed something eternal. "That was your great-grandfather's greatest act of defiance," Yosef whispered. "He kept the flame alive." Eliyahu didn't speak. He looked at the menorah with new eyes. It was no longer just an old relic. It was a witness. Years passed. Yosef grew slower, and the winding of the clocks in his shop took longer. The boys, who had once watched the candles, were now men with their own homes, and Safed changed, as all towns do. But Eliyahu stayed. He helped with the shop, learned the craft, and, slowly, the rhythm of the menorah passed into his hands. The first night of Hanukkah, he lit the first candle, reciting the blessings just as Yosef had taught him. But when he turned, he saw his grandfather, still seated, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. Zaid. Yosef opened his eyes and smiled. "It's yours now, Elik, the flame, the story. Keep it alive." That winter, Yosef passed in his sleep, with the last candle still warm in the window. Eliyahu lit the menorah every year, and people began to gather again outside the window. He didn't speak much, but the light spoke for him. When children asked why he used the old, crooked menorah, he would say, "Because its arms remember." On the night of his wedding, he lit the menorah before the ceremony. On the day his first daughter was born, he lit a candle and whispered his grandfather's stories to her, though she could not yet speak. When his son asked if miracles still happened, Eliyahu pointed to the flame. "This has burned through war, silence, and exile, and still it burns. That is miracle enough." Years later, when Eliyahu's beard had turned silver and his hands had the same softness his grandfather's once did, he passed the menorah to his own grandson, a boy with wide eyes named Ari. He told him of Yosef, and of Reuben, and of a forest where one candle burned in defiance. He told him not to fear darkness, for the light remembers the way. And when Ari asked, as children always do. Is the story over? Eliyahu only smiled and said, "No, little one. Stories like this have no end. As long as someone remembers, the flame keeps burning." And so, in the hills of Seft, in a little window, a crooked menorah still shines. And if you pass by in winter and pause to look into the light, you might feel a warmth that's older than time. You might hear the whisper of Yosef, of Reuben, of all those who carried the flame across miles and memory. You might even hear the story for yourself. Leodor Vidor. From generation to generation, the flame lives on.